Welcome back. Talking to Dr. Rand Paul, Republican runner for Senate. Let's show a quote you had in the New York Times. You are ruffling a lot of people in the Republican Party with some of your stances, and you're going against. You think you're calling. Not think you are. You're calling the Republicans out. If we could get that up, we'll show it here. Here we go. This is your quote from the New York Times. The Republican platform specifically says we don't believe in bailing out private businesses, and yet we did. The Republican platform also specifically says we don't believe in government ownership of private businesses, and yet a whole lot of Republicans voted for that. So are you finding that the Republicans, a lot of Republicans are listening to you on this, that they are concerned about the direction of the party?
We always wonder what's going to happen when you stand up in front of the Republican Party crowd and you say these things. Are they going to throw fruit or are they going to applaud? And I find that they're applauding. I will stand up and I will say we need to be true to our platform. Most Republicans believe only in a very small amount of regulation of business, but they don't believe in government ownership. In fact, if you had somebody on here who voted for the bank bailout, which is government ownership of banks, they would tell you flat out, oh, I don't believe in government ownership. Then don't vote that way. Yeah. You know, they have to have the guts and the courage to vote against those things, and that's why we need to figure out what type of Republicans we elect.
All right, let's talk about abortion. Abortion is always a big issue in Kentucky, Northern Kentucky in particular. There's been a lot written and said about your stance on abortion. What is your stance on abortion?
My stance is that we should support any legislation, federal or state, that limits, regulates, and or prohibits abortion.
Should it be a states' rights issue? You've been quoted or people have said that that's what you believe.
It can be both. I mean, I think you can support both a federal solution to abortion and a state solution to abortion. We've tried for many, many years to overturn Roe versus Wade, and I'm in favor of that. But short of that, would you be in favor of other things that might limit? For example, parental consent doesn't ban abortion, but most people who are opposed to abortion are for parental consent. So I'm for all of the steps to get to where we want to be, as well as the in-between steps. Allowing states to prohibit abortion would be an in-between step. But you've got crazy people on the other side that says, oh, that means you're for abortion in New York.
Right, exactly.
And
are you saying that?
No, it's absurd. Right now we have abortion in all 50 states. If we didn't have abortion in Kentucky and we had it in 49 states, would it be better than what we have now? Sure, it would be better. So these crazy people who are out there saying, oh, you're pro-choice because you would only eliminate it in Kentucky. No, I'd like to eliminate it in all 50 states. But if the only way to move forward is to move forward a little bit at a time, let's let some of the southern states or let states individually decide it, and we'd immediately have less abortion in this country, which is the goal of everybody in the pro-life movement.
All right, let's talk about Guantanamo Bay. I want to ask you about Afghanistan, but Guantanamo Bay. Again, a lot was said where do you stand on Guantanamo Bay? What should we have done? What should we do with that?
A lot of what we do and where we go in foreign policy should depend on following the Constitution. So the primary thing we should have done was declare war. And I would have demanded a vote on declaring war with Afghanistan, but I would have voted for it. Once war is declared, there are two Supreme Court cases, Quirin and Yamashita, that say we can have military tribunals. And so that's really the way it should have been. We should have declared war, and then we would have military tribunals. I don't think you can capture people in a battlefield and have a loudspeaker saying, you have the right to remain silent from an airplane while you're bombing them. I don't think in times of war you can have civilian courts. So I'm opposed to Obama bringing them to the U.S. for civilian courts.
Now, did you say Guantanamo should be closed and we should take those prisoners and let them go in Afghanistan?
No,
some others in the Republican Party.
And it's funny, there's this guy on the other side in my primary saying all this crazy stuff. It's not true. He's taken part of the quote. My quote said, if you read the whole quote, was that if the military cannot try these people, let's say they're not even thinking they can't even do a military tribunal, and there are some that they have sent back. I say if you send them back, don't put them like the Uyghurs over on a Pacific Paradise Island for $250 million. Go deport them back to where you found them. And so, but that's the last position if you can't try them. I'm not talking about KSM. I'm not talking about people related to 9/11. I'm talking about people that the military says that they can't try. And there have been a few of those. George Bush released several of them. But I would go one step further than what George Bush did. When George Bush released them, some of them went back to the battlefield. I would have them sign a statement saying, I am being released, but if I'm caught in battle or in arms with the U.S., I'll be executed on the battlefield, and I'd execute them on the battlefield if they're caught back in arms.
What do you think about the president's plan to send 30,000 more troops to Afghanistan?
I think when you decide on troop levels that you have to remember that the Constitution allows the commander-in-chief to decide the day-to-day operations of how the war is orchestrated. So I don't think Congress should micromanage that. I don't think Congress should tell him, oh, you need 35,000 or you need 25,000. I think the commander-in-chief should decide how many troops go into war. Then if you get beyond that and you say, well, what should we do? What should we do with Afghanistan? I think we have to ask some questions, and I think there are some important questions. We've been there 8 years, and we have to say, are we still there because we're disrupting terrorist bases, or are we still there because we're trying to create a nation out of Afghanistan? And there are many people, even within the military establishment, who think creating a nation won't work. Matthew Ho, a decorated Iraq veteran, senior diplomat, was in charge of a province in Afghanistan. He came up and he said, I'm not sure in this civil war where we go forward. Even Obama's advisors who are saying increase it by 30,000, James Jones, the former general, he says there's less than 100 al-Qaeda left. We have to ask, is there a direct threat to our national security? I'm not sure if I yet know the answer. If I was privy to all the intelligence, I might. But that's why I'm not sure it's the constitutional position or the appropriate position for me to say, yay, let's send 30, or no, let's send 100, or no, let's bring back 20. You have to know all of the information, and it's ultimately the job of the commander-in-chief, not the Congress, to micromanage how many troops are there.
All right, we'll be right back to wrap up with Dr. Rand Paul. Stay with us.